On the tarmac at Hawaiian Airport, an entirely cattle-class flight is preparing for takeoff. That's right, this flight isn't for humans. It's carrying livestock from Hawaii to California. Meanwhile, at a nearby port, older cattle are being loaded onto a ship. Their final destination is also California, but this ship will first take its cargo to Canada before the cattle are trucked south. Why would a Hawaiian rancher take on these additional expenses over direct shipping? This comes down to the Merchant Marine Act of 1920, more commonly known as the Jones Act. The Jones Act is a United States federal statute that regulates maritime commerce in US waters and between US ports. This law places protectionist limits on what ships can engage in domestic transport. To be allowed to work Jones Act routes, these ships must be built in the United States. Such vessels might cost 4 times what an imported ship costs. Furthermore, these ships must be crewed by American residents, whose costs of living and therefore required income exceeds that of sailors from the major players in international shipping. In addition, these ships must fly the US flag and be owned by Americans, subjecting these companies to more stringent regulations. All of these requirements increase the operational costs of the ships involved, resulting in it making economic sense for some Hawaiian ranchers to put cattle on planes. So, there's your answer. Case closed, end of video. But wait, if this law is so inefficient, why is it even on the books? During the First World War, the Imperial German Navy had used their U-boat fleet to sink numerous Allied supply ships in the Atlantic. With this backdrop, it was abundantly apparent that ensuring a robust merchant fleet was vital to any future war effort. So in the unlikely event diplomacy failed, and a war with a power like Germany would occur again, America would need shipyards to build warships and skilled sailors to man them. Restricting domestic shipping to American-built vessels ensured the American shipbuilding industry would remain strong and on call for any military construction the nation required. But perhaps more importantly, while the Navy can mothball extra transport ships during peacetime, sailors cannot be trained instantaneously. Therefore, requiring domestic shipping to be manned by American residents ensures a supply of trained sailors that can be called upon in the event of war to supply the troops. So in the aftermath of the war, Senator Wesley Jones of Washington State introduced legislation to Congress to provide for the promotion and maintenance of the American Merchant Marine, resulting in the act that would come to bear his name. It's worth noting that this wasn't a new idea. The first Congress enacted laws which limited domestic trades to American ships. These laws in turn were based on England's Navigation Acts that were first enacted in 1651. Nevertheless, if the goal of the Jones Act is to support a robust maritime industry, arguably it has failed. The American shipping fleet accounted for 17% of the global total in 1960, but today just 0.4%, in part due to international competition, but also the abolishment of subsidies for the construction of ships in 1981 left the market to decide the industry's fate. On the other hand, many countries aggressively support their shipping industries, to the point that international shipping is effectively a tax-free industry. The result is American shipping simply cannot compete on the international stage and has been relegated to protected Jones Act routes. And the inflated costs of maritime shipping has shifted freight onto other, often more expensive and polluting options. So while 40% of Europe's domestic freight travels by water, just 2% does in America. However, this number might be somewhat deceitful, given Europe's well-developed canal and river infrastructure. And even when disaster strikes, the Jones Act can become a hindrance. Therefore, the legislation allows waivers to be granted based on the interest of national defense. This has happened on several occasions, such as in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria wreaking havoc in the American territory of Puerto Rico. However, reportedly, few ships make use of these waivers. Presumably many ships are committed elsewhere and can't make use of a temporary waiver. In the end, the reason this act remains is the benefits are felt by a relatively small group, those involved in the industry, and these people are heavily invested in the continuation of the protection of their industry. They do so by sending lobbyists to Washington to promote their view that the benefits to national security outweigh the costs. And just as how the costs of penny manufacturing are spread across all Americans, so too is the increase in shipping costs brought on by the Jones Act. Companies naturally pass these costs onto the consumer. So given the lobbying of special interest groups at play here, and without a concentrated effort on the other side, it seems the Jones Act is here to stay, at least until not only cows but also pigs fly. This video was made possible with the support of great people on Patreon, who got to see this video early. The theme tune is by Richard Jones, and whether by patronising, sharing, or just watching, thanks to everyone who supports the channel.